Hello, students. Today we are going to start a very interesting chapter called People as Resource. Now, when you think about a country's most valuable resource, what comes to mind? Is it gold or maybe oil? Well, today we're going to explore a really powerful idea. The idea that a country's most important resource is its people.
For a country like India, with our huge population, a big question always comes up. Is having so many people a liability, a burden or a challenge? Or could it actually be our greatest asset, our biggest strength? Let's try and understand this.
Now, it's easy to understand why we might think of it as a liability. We often focus on the negative side, don't we? We see the big challenges, like providing enough food for everyone, making sure every child gets a good education, and having access to proper healthcare. It can seem like a very big problem.
But what if we look at it from a different angle? This is where we need to shift our thinking. Instead of seeing our population as just a problem to manage, let's see it as a potential asset for our nation.
So, what do we mean when we say people as a resource? Well, it's a way of looking at a country's working people, not just as numbers, but in terms of their skills and their abilities to produce things. When we start looking at people from this productive point of view, we see their potential. We see how they can contribute to the nation's growth, to our gross national product. People aren't just consumers who use things, they are also producers who create things. And that is the positive side of having a large population.
And this brings us to a very important term you need to know: human capital. What is it? It's the stock of skill and productive knowledge that exists in the people of a country. Just think of it like a nation's treasure, but instead of gold and jewels, it's filled with the skills and knowledge of its people.
So how is this human capital created? It doesn't happen on its own. It's formed through investment. When we invest in education, provide good training, and ensure proper medical care, we are actually creating human capital. A doctor, a teacher, an engineer, they are all examples of human capital. And how did they become human capital? Through investment in their education and health.
But you might ask, isn't a factory also a type of capital, or a piece of land? Yes, but what makes human capital so special? To understand this, let's compare it with what we call physical capital.
So, on one side you have physical capital. These are things like land, buildings, or machines. And on the other side you have human capital, that is, people. Now, think about it. Can a machine in a factory run by itself? Can a piece of land grow crops on its own? No, of course not. They need people to operate them and make them useful.
This brings us to a fundamental truth. Human resource can make use of land and capital, but land and capital cannot become useful on their own. It is the human being, with our skills and knowledge, that makes all other resources productive. This is what makes people the superior resource.
Okay, so if people are the most important resource, then investing in them should give good returns, right? Exactly. Let's look at how this investment pays off. This investment actually creates a positive cycle. It works like this. First, we invest in education and health. This creates human capital formation, meaning our population becomes more skilled and healthy. This, in turn, leads to higher productivity. People are able to work better and produce more. And finally, this results in higher incomes for people and more growth for the country. It's a beautiful cycle.
So a very important thing to understand is that spending money on education and health is not just an expense. It is an investment, just like investing in land or machinery. And it's an investment that gives very high rates of return in the future.
Now, this is not just a theory from a textbook. We have seen this happen right here in India. Let's look at some proof.
First, let's talk about the Green Revolution. How did it happen? Our land didn't suddenly become more fertile. No, it happened because of the investment in human capital, in knowledge. Our scientists developed better technology and seeds, and our farmers used that new knowledge to increase the productivity of the same land. It was a classic example of knowledge making a resource more valuable.
And a more recent example is India's IT revolution. This is such a clear example of the power of human capital. In the world of computers and software, the skills of our engineers and programmers became much more important than big factories or machines. It showed that brain power is the new engine for growth.
So let's come back to our original question. A large population is not a liability in itself. It can be our greatest asset. It only becomes a burden when we do not invest in its health and education. The problem isn't the number of people. The problem is a lack of investment in those people.
So how can we turn our large population into a productive asset?
Well, the path is clear. We need to focus on a few key things. Spending on good education for everyone, providing healthcare for all our people, training our workers with modern skills and technology, and supporting scientific research to create new solutions.
So in the end, the main takeaway is this. The quality of the population is far more important than its size. Literate and healthy people are an asset. They are truly a country's greatest resource.
So that brings us to the next logical question, doesn't it? If the quality of the population is so important, how do we measure it? In our next class, we will look at the important roles that education, health, and employment play in this. See you then.